What happened at the Last Supper? A lot. What would you do if you knew you had one day to live, and what would you do at your Last Supper? You make it meaningful and important. And Jesus all the more so. He needed to convey so many things. And in addition, Jesus' Last Supper was not just an ordinary day, it was the Passover, a feast of the Jewish people. So lots happen. And Jesus had been talking about, my hour is coming. This is his hour. It happened. So he gathers his 12 disciples with him, his 12 apostles. And they're so important. That's his strategy, to start the church and bring his salvation to the world through these 12. And he has this Passover meal with them. You kind of got to know the backstory, what the Passover is. It goes back to the days of Moses in Egypt and their slavery. How are they set free from Pharaoh in Egypt in the time of Moses? The Passover. They had to slaughter a lamb, put the blood on the door frame, eat the flesh of the lamb, and get ready to leave Egypt, because the 10th plague was going to happen, the death of the firstborn son, and that's what happened in Egypt. All firstborn sons died that night, except for the Jewish people, because they did the Passover ritual, and then the blood on the lintel, the door frames, mark their homes, so the angel passed over them. Does that have any relevance? Is Jesus is doing a Passover meal before he dies? Well, he's the firstborn son, the only begotten son. We're all really doomed to die, because we're all essentially Egyptians under Pharaoh's evil reign. We're all sinners. We need to get out of Egypt. We need to get out of our sin. We need a paschal lamb to be slaughtered, and its blood to mark us. So angel of death passes over us. Jesus in that meal doesn't use lamb, but he uses bread, which is also unleavened bread was part of the Passover ritual. But he's the lamb. Obviously his blood is going to be shed. So that night he takes bread, and I got some props here, and he says, this is my body, which will be given up for you. Take and eat. This is my body, which will be given up for you. In the Passover ritual, you have to eat the lamb. And he had said in also John chapter 6, whoever eats my flesh, drinks my blood, will live forever. So he takes that rich Jewish ritual and elevates it to what we know as the Eucharist. So at the Last Supper, he institutes the Eucharist, changing the bread to his body, and then that same meal taking the cup, which is also part of the Passover ritual. There's cups of wine. This is the cup of my blood, which will be poured out for you for the forgiveness of sins. Do this in memory of me. I'm kind of paraphrasing the scripture a slight bit there. So he says the wine becomes his blood. When Jesus says something, he's God. God says it. It is. God said in the beginning, let there be light, and there was. He says, this is my body. It's his body. This is my blood. It's his blood. Because he is the lamb. And what he's doing in this Passover meal will connect to what he does the next day on the cross, where he also gives his body and blood for us. So he institutes the Eucharist. That's our treasure as Catholics. We believe it still happens today, because he says, do this in memory of me. Do it. And not just like a distant remembering that it only happened then and we have no way to participate. No, it's like we go back in time, we do participate. St. Paul would say, whoever eats the bread we break, drinks the cup we bless, is it not a participation in the blood of Christ? So he says that we really do participate in it. So the Eucharist is instituted. The 12 apostles there are really instituted as priests. They're the first priests of the church. Jesus says, do this. They are given the power to really do this in memory of him. He washes the feet. I got my little washing of the feet here. At the same time, so the three Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, go into the institution of the Eucharist. John focuses a little bit more on the washing of the feet. And Jesus says, so as I have done, you also should do. So he tells us to serve, to love one another. It all goes together. And that's why I say so much happens. Jesus serves us. He loves us to the end. He lays down his life. He takes the humblest role to wash the feet. Well, he's going to humble himself on the cross that very next day to save us. We are washed in baptism, and we receive his body and blood. We become union with him through this sacrament. That's why so much is happening. I mean, that's just kind of hard to unpack there. But what happened in the Last Supper? Like everything. It's all just summed up in one meal. On earth, don't we enjoy our meals with people? And we have this fellowship, and the Last Supper is that meal, but it's also the sacrifice of Christ on the cross, and just so much more. So everything happens at the Last Supper.